A man walks alone along an icy road in the Swiss Alps. The wind cuts his skin. His hands tremble. His eyes burn with chronic pain. He carries with him only a few sheets of paper, a pen, and a brutal conviction that suffering is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of it. This man is Friedrich Nietzsche, and he is about to teach the world something no one wants to hear. Grab your whiskey as we delve deeper into the topic. Nietzsche on suffering, why pain is necessary. If you still believe that philosophy is for bored people, subscribe to this channel. Here, we bleed truth. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can endure almost anyhow." But what if I told you that the problem isn't the lack of a reason why, but the unhealthy obsession with never feeling pain? Now, tell me, when was the last time you truly felt something? Not that Instagram sadness, not that drama from stories, but hell pain, genuine discomfort, something that forced you to look in the mirror and ask, who the hell am I when nothing works? I bet you avoided it, you run away. You took medicine, you distracted yourself, because we live in an era that sells a perfumed lie that you deserve to be happy all the time. That discomfort is a flaw. That pain is a mistake, and Nietzsche laughs at this illusion. Look around you. We live in the age of industrial comfort. Apps that deliver food in 20 minutes. Express therapies that promise to cure trauma in 3 sessions. Pills for every discomfort. Motivational phrases for every existential void. Modern society has built a temple to immediate pleasure, and in this temple, pain is the greatest sin. But here's the problem, and Nietzsche saw it coming more than a century ago. When you eliminate all discomfort, you also eliminate all depth. Do you know what happens to a muscle that is never tested? It atrophies. Do you know what happens to a mind that never faces resistance? It withers, it becomes fragile, childish, incapable of withstanding any friction with reality. Nietzsche called domestication in the sense of training animals, but in the sense of turning human beings into tame cattle, obedient, comfortable, mediocre, because nothing says personal evolution like avoiding anything that makes you think for more than 30 seconds, right? Look, it's not that. Nietzsche was a sadist who loved to see people suffer. No. He was a man broken by pain migraines that left him blind for days. Suffocating loneliness, brutal intellectual rejection. He knew the suffering from within, and that's exactly why he understood something that most people refuse to accept. Comfort doesn't make you happy, it makes you empty. When you spend your whole life running away from pain, you also run away from any possibility of greatness. Because greatness, whether artistic, intellectual, or spiritual, always demands sacrifice. It demands blood. Great artists bled. Great thinkers agonized. And no disputif that bet because from that. Do you think Van Gogh would have painted what he painted if he had been well adjusted? Do you think Dostoevsky would have written about the human abyss if he had never looked into his own? Of course. And you're so busy avoiding any emotional hurt that you've forgotten what it's like to truly be alive. Nietzsche dropped a bombshell on the table. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. But pay attention, he didn't say what doesn't kill me makes me comfortable. He said strengthens getting stronger, hurts. It requires rupture. It requires you to be broken in order to be rebuilt. The illusion of comfort is believing you can grow without resistance. That you can become who you're meant to be, without ever confronting who you are now. And that, my dear, is a comforting lie. A cultural anesthesia, a fairy tale for adults who prefer to live in gilded cradles rather than face the storm outside. So take a deep breath for a moment and ask yourself, what are you avoiding right now? What pain are you postponing? What discomfort are you masking with endless distractions? Because while you're running away, life passes you by, and in the end, all that's left is a lukewarm existence. Safe, forgettable. Nietzsche invites you to something far more dangerous to feel. Now that you understand that comfort is a trap disguised as a gift, let's delve deeper. Because Nietzsche didn't stop there. He not only denounced the illusion, he revealed the truth hidden behind suffering. And that truth is brutal. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the sculptor. Imagine a block of rough marble. Ugly, deformed, full of sharp edges. Now imagine Michelangelo standing before it, hammer in hand. Each blow is violent. Each strike tears away pieces. It hurts to see that. doesn't it? It looks like destruction, but it isn't. It's revelation. Because within that block, David has always been. The hammer merely liberates what already existed, imprisoned by the stone. You are the marble and the pain. The pain is the hammer. Nietzsche experienced this firsthand. At 24, he was already a university prodigy, but his body betrayed him. Migraines that left him bedridden for weeks. Vision problems that turned reading into torture constantinosia. Suffocating loneliness. He had no choice, either give up or transform that hell into fuel. And he chose to sculpt. Each book he wrote was wrested from suffering. Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He was born from a man isolated in the mountains, sick, rejected. Beyond Good and Evil It was written by someone who saw the world through lenses blurred by pain. He didn't write it to steady off suffering. He wrote because the pain didn't destroy him, it forced him to dig deeper, to think more clearly, to feel more intensely. Now compare that to what we do today. First headache, ibuprofen. First existential crisis. Therapy to fix it quickly. First failure, blaming the system, the boss, society, anything but looking in the mirror and asking, what if this pain is trying to teach me something? Because that's what Nietzsche understood. Pain is a message, and you can either ignore it or decipher it. Most people ignore it. They run away. They numb it. And then you wonder why life seems so empty, so meaningless. Simple, because you've removed the only mechanism that forces real growth. Nobody evolves in their comfort zone. Nobody muscles grow when they are torn. Minds evolve when they are challenged. And human beings only become what they truly are when they are squeezed by pain until all futility escapes and only the essential remains. Nietzsche called this transmutation is not about surviving the pain. It's about transforming it, taking that destructive energy and forging it into something greater. It's about looking into the abyss and saying, you don't define me, but I'm going to use you to build myself. Think of anyone you truly admire, not those empty celebrities, but someone you deeply respect. I bet that person has been through something. Lost someone failed brutally, but betrayed faced their own insignificance and chose not to be destroyed by it. That's the difference between suffering passively and suffering actively. The first buries you, the second sculpts you. But here's the trick, and Nietzsche loved philosophical tricks. You don't choose whether or not you're going to suffer. Pain comes, it always comes. The only choice you have is what to do with it. You can let it break you, embitter you, turn you into walking resentment. Or you can use each blow like an artist uses a hammer to reveal who you really are beneath all the layers of comfort, social masks, and comforting lies. And here comes the part nobody wants to hear. If you've never felt real pain, you've never truly known yourself. Because it's easy to be strong when everything is fine. It's easy to be wise when nothing is at stake. But what happens when the ground collapses, when everything you've built crumbles? That's when you discover who you are, or who you are not. Nietzsche went through this. He lost his sanity in the end. He hugged a horse in the street, crying, and never came back. But before that, he left a trail of intellectual fire that still burns today, because he didn't waste his suffering. He transformed it into philosophy, into art, into naked, raw truth. So tell me, what are you doing with your pain? Are you running away from it with Netflix and takeout? Or are you using it to become someone worth being? Because the hammer is already striking. The question is, will you be destroyed by it or sculpted by it? Now, let's touch on a raw nerve. Because Nietzsche wasn't just interested in talking about pain, he wanted to destroy the lie that society has built around it. And that lie has a name: herd morality. Have you ever noticed how a culture glorifies suffering in the wrong way? Not the suffering that transforms, but the suffering that paralyzes. Not the pain that sculpts, but the pain that we live in an era where being a victim has become social currency, where the more you suffer passively, the more noble you are. The more you complain about your own powerlessness, the more authentic you seem. Nietzsche saw this happening over a century ago, and he traced this inversion of values back to its origin, Christianity. Hold on, before you close the video thinking it's just another edgy attack on religion, understand his point. Nietzsche wasn't attacking anyone's personal faith. He was dissecting a moral system that transformed weakness into virtue. Think about it. What did early Christianity preach? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who suffer. The last shall be first. The meek shall inherit the earth. All of that sounds beautiful, right? But Nietzsche asked something unsettling. What if this is just resentment disguised as kindness? Look, in the ancient world before Christianity dominated Europe, strength was a virtue. Courage was a virtue. Overcoming obstacles was a virtue. The Greeks admired heroes. The Romans admired conquerors. Not because they were psychopaths, but because they recognized something fundamental. Life is a struggle. And those who fight well, who overcome, who create, who build those deserve respect. Then Christianity comes along and turns everything upside down. Suddenly, the weaker, those who suffer without reacting are saints. Those who accept humiliation are blessed. And the strong are sinners, arrogant, proud, condemned. Nietzsche called this a slave revolt in morality. Not literal slaves, but those who are unable to become strong, decided to transform their own weakness into moral superiority. It's brilliant when you think about it. If you can't win, declare that winning is immoral. If you can't actively endure pain, declare that passively enduring it is holiness. And it works, because look around. How many people do you know who wear their suffering like a medal? Who use their own pain as an identity? Who build their entire personality around what went wrong, what was unfair, what hurt them? This is not strength. This is crystallized resentment. Nietzsche had a term for that. Resentment, and it's not ordinary anger. It's that cold anger, that silent bitterness that corrodes from within. It's when you can't overcome something, so you spend your whole life defining yourself by it. It's when you can't create, so you dedicate your existence to blaming those who did. It's when you can't rise, so you try to pull everyone else down and call it social justice because nothing says moral evolution. Like transforming envy into virtue, right? Now contrast that with what Nietzsche called the morality of the strong. And be careful, strong here, it doesn't mean rich, powerful, or oppressive. It means someone who creates values instead of merely reacting to the values of others. It means someone who transforms pain into creation, not resentment. It means someone who says yes to life, even when life kicks you to the ground. The weak ask, why did this happen to me? The strong ask, what am I going to do about it? The weak say, the world owes me something. The strong say, I owe myself something. The weak glorify their own powerlessness. The strong overcome it. And here's the disturbing part. Our entire society is built on herd morality. You can't be too ambitious, that's greed. You can't be too confident, that's arrogance. You can't aspire to greatness, that's selfishness. And if you suffer, well, now you're special. Now you deserve attention. Now you have a ready-made excuse to never try anything new. Nietzsche hated this. Not because he was insensitive, but because he knew that this mentality kills life from within. It transforms human beings into eternal victims, waiting for the world or God, or the government, or any external force to come and save them. But nobody is coming. And while you wait, life passes you by. And in the end, all that remains is a collection of well-intentioned excuses about why you never became who you could have been. So here's the question. Nietzsche brutally asks you, are you using your pain as fuel or as an excuse? Are you sculpting something with it or just displaying your wounds hoping for eternal pity? Because compassion is easy. Transformation is not. And Nietzsche, he doesn't want your pity. He wants your courage. We've arrived at the heart of the matter because up until now we've talked about what pain does, about how society distorts it, about the difference between strength and weakness, but the essential question is still missing. How should you really deal with suffering? And Nietzsche's answer is so simple, it's frightening, so radical that most can't even process it. He said, love it. Do not accept, do not tolerate, do not endure love. Amor Fati, literally, love of Fati. And this isn't some cute self-help concept. It's a declaration of war against all forms of self-pity, victimhood, and resentment that you carry. It's looking at every tragedy, every failure, every humiliation in your life and saying, I wouldn't change a thing because all of it brought me here. And this is exactly where I need to be. Can you feel the weight of this? It's not about forgiving the person who hurt you. It's not about finding the positive side. It's about something much deeper and more disturbing. Affirming your entire life, without reservations, without conditions. Without that, it would be perfect if it weren't for that horrible thing that happened. Most people live like this. My life would be good if it weren't for my absent father. I would be happy if I hadn't missed that opportunity. I would be successful if it weren't for that betrayal. There's always an if it weren't for. There's always a ready excuse. There's always a scapegoat for the fact that your life isn't what you wanted it to be. Nietzsche sees that's cowardice. You're outsourcing your existence. You're saying your life is only worthwhile under certain conditions. That you'll only accept living if you can edit out the bad parts. But life doesn't work that way. The pain has already happened. The loss has already happened. The suffering has already marked you. And dwelling on it, wishing it were different, is just an elegant way of not living. Amor Fati is the opposite of that. It means, I want my life exactly as it is. With all the crap, with all the pain, with all the injustice, because trying to separate suffering from joy, failure from success, pain from beauty, that's trying to live only half a life. And half a life is worthless. But pay attention. Nietzsche isn't talking about resignation. It's not that lazy, it is what it is. It's not about crossing your arms and passively accepting everything like a philosophical doormat. Amor Fati is active, it's affirmative. It's looking at the chaos of your existence and saying, this is me, and I'm going to use every piece of it to build myself. It's the difference between being crushed by the weight of the past and using that weight as a foundation. Between letting pain define you and letting pain refine you. Nietzsche lived through it. He had every reason in the world to rebel against fate. Chronic illness, brutal loneliness, ignored works, destroyed relationships, madness in the end. If anyone had the right to be bitter, it was him. But he chose differently. He looked at that shattered life and said, I wouldn't change a thing, because every pain taught me something that comfort never could. Now, think about your life. How many times have you said, I wish that it never happened? How many times have you fantasized about an alternate version of yourself who didn't go through that humiliation, that loss, that shame? How many times have you rejected parts of your own story because they don't fit the narrative you want to sell? Amor Fati forces you to stop this. It forces you to integrate everything, not as trauma that you carry as dead weight, but as experience that you transmute into wisdom. Because there is no better version of you that hasn't gone through all of this. This fantasy of who I would be if it weren't for X is just an escape. It's just another way of not being here. Now, hold and look, this isn't easy. Nobody said it would be. Loving fate when fate crushes you requires a strength most people don't have. It requires you to abandon the fantasy of control. It requires you to give up the idea that the universe owes you something. It requires you to stop bargaining with reality. But do you know what you get in return? Freedom. Not the idiotic freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to not be a prisoner of your own past. The freedom to transform each scar into a symbol of a battle won. The freedom to say, I am all of this. And all of this is enough. Because as long as you remain trapped in that what if, you'll never truly live. You'll only survive in an edited and censored version of your own existence. And in the end, you'll realize you wasted the only life you had waiting for a different life that never came. Amor Fati is not naive optimism. It's not positive thinking. It's something much more brutal and honest. It's looking at the hell you've been through and saying thank you. Not because you're a masochist, but because without that hell, you would never have forged who you are now. So tell me, do you have the courage for this? Can you look at your life, all of it, unfiltered, and say yes? Because if you can't, you're still running away. And Nietzsche has no patience for cowards. And now we come to the final test. The question Nietzsche used to separate the living from the living dead. The most brutal and honest question philosophy has ever produced. And it will haunt you if you truly understand what is being asked. Imagine a demon appearing to you on a lonely night. And he tells you this life you are living now, you will have to live it again and again and again, infinitely. Every moment, every pain, every joy, every failure, every humiliation, every second of boredom, every betrayal, every loss, exactly the same, eternally, without changes, without edits, without skipping the bad parts, forever. How do you react? Honestly, without masks, do you scream in despair? Do you fall to your knees begging that it's not true? Or do you smile and say, bring it back? I want it all again. Exactly like that. This is the question of eternal return. And Nietzsche knew that most people would collapse just imagining it, because most live a life they can barely endure once. The idea of repeating everything infinitely, unthinkable, unbearable, an existential nightmare. But why? Why does the mere idea of leaving your own life eternally terrify you? Simple, because deep down, you're wasting it. You're living on autopilot. You know that most of your days are made up of distractions, complaints, self-pity, and conformity, and the idea of repeating that forever. It's hell. Nietzsche used this question as a test of authenticity. He said, if you cannot affirm your life to the point of wanting to live it eternally, then you are not really living. You are merely killing time until you die. And that is not life. It is merely waiting. Now connect this to everything we've talked about so far. The suffering, the pain, the losses. Everything you try to avoid, hide, deny. If you had to live it all again, infinitely would, you still try to run away? Or would you finally understand that pain is part of the package and that rejecting it is rejecting life itself? Because that's what eternal return reveals. You can't just take the good parts. You can't live only the moments of joy and skip the moments of suffering. Life is a single block. Either you accept everything or you reject everything. There is no middle ground. And here's the part that really cuts to the chase. Most people live as if they could edit their own existence afterward. As if at the end there were an editing room where you can cut out the bad parts and keep only the highlights. But there isn't everything you've lived, everything you've felt, everything you've been that is you forever. And if you can't love that, you can't love yourself. Nietzsche was fully aware of his own suffering. He knew his life had been brutal, but he also knew something most people ignore. Without that brutality, he would never have thought what he thought. He would never have written what he wrote. He would never have become who he became. And if he had to choose between a comfortable and mediocre life or a painful and meaningful one, he would choose pain without hesitation, because pain forced him to create something that comfort never could. Now look at your life. How many times have you wished certain events had never happened? How many times have you thought, if only I could go back in time? How many times have you rejected parts of your own story because they don't fit the narrative you want to tell? The eternal return forces you to stop this. It forces you to integrate everything. Because if you had to live it all again and again, you would have no choice. You would have to make peace with each moment. You would have to find meaning even in pain. You would have to transform resentment into acceptance and acceptance into love. And do you know what happens when you finally manage to say yes to eternal return? You are freed, not from suffering, because suffering continues, but you are freed from the prison of wishing things were different. You are freed from the burden of carrying what ifs and could have been. You are freed from the childish fantasy that you deserve a life without pain, because you don't deserve it. Nobody deserves it. Life isn't fair. It never has been. It never will be. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop wasting energy wishing for an alternate universe and start truly living in the only universe that exists. This one, Nietzsche doesn't offer you consolation. He offers you truth. And the truth is this: suffering doesn't go away. Pain doesn't stop, but you can choose what to do with it. You can choose to be crushed or to be forged. You can choose to become bitter or to become stronger. You can choose to live a life you can barely endure once, or you can choose to live a life you would have the courage to repeat eternally. So take a deep breath and answer honestly, just to yourself, if you had to live your life again, exactly the same. Forever, would you say yes? If the answer is no, then you already know what needs to change. And the clock is ticking. Empty whiskey. Fill your glass. The next abyss awaits you. Subscribe to the channel.